Welcome. Welcome to the Clermont County Board of Commissioners meeting for July the 24th, 2024. Can you believe it's almost at the end of July? It goes so fast. You wish summer would last a lot longer. Prior to starting all of our commissioner meetings, we always ask for local clergy to come and lead us in prayer. This morning is no exception, but the person we have here is exceptional. We have Pastor Rex Shirlaki, and he is from the Trinity Christian Church. Is that correct? That's correct. If you would do the honors for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us pray. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for the freedom to meet together and discuss the needs of Clermont County and the municipalities which are within Clermont County and the many advantages which you have given to all of us. Lord, we thank you for those who have a willing heart to assume the responsibilities before you to lead and direct the affairs and the business of Clermont County and to serve in the sacred public trust as commissioners. Lord, bless them with peace in their lives, both public and private. Lord, we ask that the long historical ties and the sacred heritage which Clermont County shares with the churches within the county would be maintained and respected and protected, and will foster a growing awareness in the hearts and minds of each and all citizens of their needs for you and your abiding presence in their lives, both public and private. We thank you, Lord, for the ones in Clermont County that are serving in the military. We thank you for their commitment, their loyalty, integrity. Be with all the families who are separated because of military responsibility. Watch over them, protect them, give them your grace and mercy to live lives serving our country and you. Protect all our law enforcement for their willingness to serve the public, keeping us safe and secure. And we come against any aspect of any terrorist activity in Clermont County. And bless all EMTs and firefighters with your wisdom, compassion, and your ability to ascertain every run. Thank you, Father, for such a great county and all that is accomplished for the people of Clermont County. Continue to bless us as we continue to honor you and listen to your leading. And Father, we just thank you for your wisdom in regards to the agenda that's before us today. We ask this all in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now to start our meeting, Commissioner Batchelor, would you lead us in pledge?
Yes, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. We'll call this meeting to order at 10 o'clock a.m. on 7/24. Prior to moving on, we have to add an item to the agenda. Board, I would like to add an item for a motion to adopt for the appointment of a clerk pro tem to this regular agenda. Can I add this to the agenda?
I'll make the motion to add.
I will second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, and so now I'd make a motion that the Board of County Commissioners appoint Rebecca Goff, Assistant Clerk, the Board of County Commissioners, as Clerk Pro Tem for today's regular session at February 28th, 24. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Corcoran? Yes. Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, we will move on with the agenda. Gail is out today. We obviously miss her and we hope she gets back soon. So item B is approval of regular session minutes for 7/17/2024. You've had these minutes early, had the opportunity to review them. Board, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 17th?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Jane?
Item number C is a presentation. We have Justin Mason, Environmental Engineering Service, EES, to talk to us about the unsewered areas south of State Route 125.
I'm going to do a little introduction. I'm Lyle Bloom, Director with the Water Resources Department. We have Justin Mason with EES, Steve Cantor, and Sam Stotts also with EES. And also we have Chris Rowland, who's the Assistant Sanitary Engineer with Water Resources Department. So we started this study a couple years ago. It's been, I'd say, probably more challenging than what EES thought it would be due to topography issues, funding. It's a tough area to sewer, the area south of 125. Part of it drains towards the East Fork Harsha Lake. Part of it drains towards the Ohio River, and then you have all the little streams in between. We're also discussing bad areas with the public health department. There was really no, and I referenced Newtonsville, there was no Newtonsville area, according to the health department down there, that was really in dire need of public sewers. So the plan's really just a broad overview. It's intended to be a long-term plan. It would serve, I'd say, more of as a reference if we get any interested developers that want to develop there, or any property owners that want to petition the county for sanitary sewer. It's going to be kind of our first look at the plan, see what was intended. It's not going to be set in stone. My intent would be that it would be adaptable. It'll just give us a starting point to look at what would be the best way to serve an area if there is interest. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin. They've prepared a presentation and we'll run through that. And if there's any questions, Justin.
Thank you, Lyle. Yeah, that was a great introduction. So, yep. I'm Justin Mason with Environmental Engineering Service, working with Lyle's group on this presentation, study and presentations. There's a report that goes along with this presentation, but the presentation is just the overall summary of the report. So that report will be available to distribute out to stakeholders after the presentation today, and on how you guys want to move forward with it. So the study area, sorry, the font's a little different there, but we'll work through it here. So the study area can be defined as the 10 mile, so south of Pierce Township, southern portion of Pierce Township, and along 125 to the county line areas south of that. There are public sewers in that area, but there's no county-owned, there's no significant county sewers just outside of the Bethel area. So there's been interest in developers wanting to develop areas such as the Beckjord site, areas along 125. And so there needs to be some kind of way or framework to be able to handle those requests. So stakeholders in this are 6 townships: Pierce Township, Ohio, Monroe, Tate, Washington, and Franklin. We did reach out to those townships very early on in the project, not with this study information. That'll be the next phase of this, is to reach out to them to go into more detail of how they react to the content that's in the study, and how they would like to see that, if it needs to be redirected or the commentary there. But just kind of look at this overall as like a working document that'll continue to be built on. But this is just the framework, how to handle things when there's sewer requests or needs in the area. There are some there's some villages, mainly discussed with the village of New Richmond because of one of the projects that you'll see here directs flow into that direction in that drainage area. The other communities besides Bethel, they have smaller systems that or lack of smaller systems that would that weren't ignored in this, but can definitely be discussed further. I know there's some discussion of the system in Moscow more recently, and they've decided to keep their system. But the Moscow, Neville, and Shiloh seem to be impacted by the Ohio River, as well as New Richmond, but more of those communities, and they have smaller footprint there. So, but not to be ignored. Stakeholders, the townships, trustees, or the township administrators, the village of New Richmond, Clermont County Health Department, Economic Development, and Ohio EPA. So, project overall goal, like Lyle was saying, is just to create this technical framework for kind of a clear path to provide central sewer system, not to change the landscape of the county, but to identify kind of the starting grounds of if somebody wants sewer, somebody needs sewer, whether it's existing on-site system, folks that have their own private system, or folks that want to invest in the county and want to develop. And we compare those folks together with following this framework. So understand the availability of existing sewer system capacity. There are several smaller package plants in the system that potentially have some capacity. We'll get into that. There's the understand the overall project costs and understanding the potential if you build a new plant, the limitations that you have on the discharge streams. It's a little more favorable to discharge to the Ohio River with a wastewater treatment plant than it would be a smaller stream. So we'll go over some of those things. Then just understanding the environmental and economic implementation issues that you might run into projects. All right. So kind of the ultimate solution, we'll be looking at kind of 4 different drainage areas or service areas. You can see the 10-mile service area. We do go slightly above the original project boundary just because of the topography there, and to bump up against the existing sewers at Amelia and Pierce Township there. 12-Mile Creek, which comes down to a point there in New Richmond, Big Indian Creek, which is at the mouth of Big Indian Creek, and then the East Fork Lake area, which has a drainage area that flows towards East Fork Lake. Any one of these particular regional sewer areas, could be implemented at different times based on the how it continues to develop. But to do just one of these areas from the very beginning, you'll see here in the next few slides, it's quite a lot of infrastructure, and the existing EDUs that you'd be picking up or equivalent dwelling units is pretty minimal for the size of sewer that you need to also account for future development. I'll get into that a little bit. So looking at the 10-mile, you can see here we have a tentative location where, a 10-mile wastewater treatment plant, that doesn't mean it has to be there, but that's just topography-wise, that's where you'd be looking at a future regional plant. And you can see the sewer stretches out. This is just the mainline sewer, not sewer that a developer would need to lay out a subdivision and collect sewer in that. But you see it goes all the way up to the Concord Road area. But quite a lot of infrastructure. Looking at the existing EDUs, and the overall cost for EDU is quite high. But if you had a lot of development, or as we'll get into, if you break it into smaller projects and you have existing needs that are already kind of set up, it's going to lower the cost of regionalizing. Again, the 12-Mile Creek, this is going down to New Richmond, and also includes some of the area of the Beck George site. The Big Indian Creek, it comes from the Big Indian, goes mouth of Big Indian Creek and Ohio River, makes its way all the way up to Bethel. This one broke into multiple phases, but one thing here is advantage if you get into phase 3, we could redirect flow from Bethel, which is currently being pumped, to the middle East Fork plant. We could relieve a lot of, it could open up a lot of capacity at the middle East Fork plant by redirecting that flow to a new regional plant. But again, building all that today is just a lot of cost you'd be going miles of sewer just to pass very few homes. So, this is kind of looking way out ahead. But as the area develops or things take off, some of these centralized approaches might make sense at some point.
Could you explain that EDU again? EDU is economic development unit?
250 gallons per day is what a standard 3-bedroom home, 3 or 4-bedroom home would use. And when we looked at this, most of these homes most of the on-site systems and properties are 1 EDU per lot, essentially.
An EDU is
It's a equivalent dwelling unit. Yes.
equivalent.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It's intended to be like a single family home.
Yeah.
Okay.
20 EDU would be equivalent to one.
Yeah. And you can have a business that has, multiple restroom facilities that might be 2 EDUs for one building, one structure. So when we look at development.
So if you're looking at this slide, then
Yep.
the current is the 416 and the 2,472. That's the existing E EDUs.
Yeah, the 589 existing EDUs. Yeah, in the not in Bethel.
Oh, I'm sorry,
but
East Fort.
outside area.
Yeah.
Yep. And
So-
then, if that area develops,
And you're talking about in this example that if it developed with the 2,000 additional EDUs, then the cost per EDU goes from 75 down to 17,000.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that 2,000 is just an estimate based on,
Yeah. So
Um,
that was yes. So that's
2
based
EDUs per
on
acre?
2 EDUs per acre.
okay,
That seems to be. I can't see it being more dense than that. Other, as an overall average, I can't see it being more dense than that.
right, okay.
So we have to make sure, we couldn't assume that we're just going to put up multi-use apartment buildings everywhere on every piece of land, and but also, so it's more of an average, and then it's also we didn't include every acre of land. If there's a lot of wooded areas and ravines, a lot of that was backed off of.
Mhm.
We weren't assuming we would have, so that there was a lot of thought that was put into how many EDUs per acre, and I think that's one thing where moving forward, how the stakeholders would when they provide input, that's a variable that'll change.
And you use that standard for every region,
I did, yes,
Okay.
just to kind of have.
right, to
Yeah.
compare.
Mhm.
And I would just make this comment is that correlating it to the EDU and to existing dwellings, I mean, that puts a cost on it per dwelling, and I get that. But just to look at that from a little different, wider perspective, the perspective is that these areas south of 125 can't be built out because the infrastructure isn't there. And so this would not be a project that would be associated with the EDU. This would be a project that would be associated with putting in bulk infrastructure, period. Just the same as when Miami and when Loveland was built before Clermont County really had a lot of citizens, there was infrastructure run. It was run so the potential. The thing here to get at is that if you look at the median income from south of 125 onto the Ohio River, it diminishes as it goes on because there's a lack of infrastructure. So places like Fisher, businesses that come, they're not going to come here. So what I wanted to see in this study is what is that potential? If money were made available to run this infrastructure, like infrastructure was run out to Afton, Ohio, and that infrastructure set for 25 years before it was ever put in service. We need infrastructure in the south area of this county. I mean, that's the only place left to go. And large developers are passing because there isn't any infrastructure there. And places like New Richmond can only annex so far. So the thought there is that we totally understand the cost. And I think correlating it to the existing infrastructure is fine. But that doesn't take it out of the ballpark for me. If a grant were to come along, what I would really want to know is what can we put in here? What can we get installed here that would change the bar for the people that live in that southern area?
Right.
And I'll leave you with a quote. I have a great quote for this study. And the quote for this study was made in 1965. And that quote says, "Nothing good happens south of 125." And a gentleman made that in 1965. His name was Fred H. Painter, and he was my father. And so I have looked at this since I've been a commissioner since 17. And this is something that's needed, like gas was needed on the east side of Clermont County. So I would hope that we don't correlate it all to existing dwellings, because it's not about existing dwellings. We need to get sewer and water to this side of Clermont County.
hmm
And Commissioner Painter, not only that, we had trustee Durbin here last week from Bethel, from Tate Township. And the same as he says, they can't build, they can't develop east because there's no sewer. So,
What I really want to know is, can it be done? If it can be done, where would it be sited? You know, and just to talk about that, look, all water flows somewhere to the Ohio River. It gets there somehow. And the topography in the south side of our county is not great, but it doesn't have any problem flowing water downhill because it all seems to end up at the river somehow, whether it comes through the East Fork tributary or it comes from Bethel, it gets there. You know, so there are ways that gravity will take this sewer to those lower areas. And that's what we want to be able to know. If we're going to come up with 5 sewer treatment areas, where are those 5 located? And what would it cost for us to identify an area and put it in, regardless of what goes on with the dwellings?
hmm
That makes sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
and former trustee Frank Around of Ohio Township, when I was a trustee in Pierce, that was one of his biggest complaints. We can't develop in Ohio Township because we don't have sewer.
And then we bring in the portion of sewer associated with septic tanks.
Mhm.
We all know that that's going to become an EPA nightmare. You know, septic tanks are not going to be something that's going to be desirable for people to buy homes. You know, we're seeing that more and more. People don't want the liability, a $40,000 liability 15, 20 years down the road of a septic system. You know, and then if you do have that liability, maybe you're at that point in your life where you can't abate a liability like that. So, I mean, county sewers are the only way we're going to get there. So, thanks.
All right. So looking at the, we looked at these larger regionalized central, well, you could use regionalized or central sewer systems, which would have larger plants such as like Middle East Fork, that style of plant size, to collect a larger drainage area. We take a step back knowing, okay, that's going to be a lot of cost to put that in. Okay, what's something that if somebody comes and they're looking at, okay, developing 150 acres and they need sewer, how do we handle that? Because we can't say, well, you got to wait 20 years for us to build this oversized line from the river and provide, but we want to always be thinking when we do something like a smaller sub-regional, which we'll get into, solution, that it also works towards, the day that you can regionalize the area and have a larger system and not have a bunch of small plants everywhere.
Which I've understood is how Clermont County really developed.
And that's true. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how this area has developed. Package plants turn into lift stations that pump to a system once you get close enough where the economy allows you to kind of do that, you're not pumping for miles and miles. But yes, and that ties directly to the number of customers that can pay for that system and to keep it going. You can get grants and things to build the capital costs, but you got to be able to maintain this stuff, and you got to be able to do that effectively with the ratepayers. So, putting money back into it monthly. So that's important. So, if we look at sub-regional areas, might be a cost-effective way. When we identify these areas, there's 21 areas, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's only 21. It's just we had to stop it somewhere. So these kind of rose to the top as areas that there was existing needs for on-site systems they would benefit from going to a public system. That was something we wanted to make sure we did include. But also adjacent to those clusters of properties where there's on-site systems on small lots, that there could be potential for development. And there could be a partnership or something with investors to come in, but also to benefit those around that have established many years ago, that have this on-site system that they've got to deal with. And then across the street, a new developments coming in, they need sewer. So I think you could group those two together and and make a project out of that. So. Won't go through all 21. The report does detail each of those, but just some different scenarios that you run into. So this is a subregion 3A. It's where there's no point of connection to an existing Clermont County sewer, because this study area does bump up against areas that do have sewer collection. This is an area that does not. And so here we're looking at the availability of utilizing existing package plants, privately owned package plants, systems, or building a new package plants and them becoming a customer. But it has to be understood that there's available capacity in some of these private systems, but they are aging, and there are a lot of issues with potential for infiltration and inflow, which from a hydraulic standpoint could be very limiting. So it would have to take into account, if you did a project there, that you could open up that capacity again. So there's the permit, the MPDS permit through the state that allows them to discharge treated flow to the receiving stream. And that's really the golden ticket there, is you're not establishing a new MPDS permit, which will have stricter requirements. And you can utilize some of the permit that's available there, some of the flow from a biological standpoint. This system here, it's hard to see up there, but in the report, you'll see there's a mixed use of sewer collection, of low pressure sewer, as well as some gravity to a lift station and force main to get it. But the topography is difficult throughout the whole area. Another thing is where there is a point of connection to an existing sewer system. A couple smaller, lower pressure sewer systems. These can be pretty cost effective from a capital standpoint. The maintenance of a low pressure sewer system can be challenging, and that would need to be discussed on ownership of individual grinder pump systems. But this is a project from initial capital costs. It can be pretty cost effective. We met with Ohio EPA and had to have an understanding with them of what it would take to put a new plant in somewhere, a small package plant that would go to a receiving stream that doesn't have a lot of flow into it. So these would be areas where it's not economical to send, where you can't get a plant down on the Ohio River or even pump effluent from the plant, the treated flow, to the Ohio River. So you can be limited to the plant size, even if you do what we're getting to here, which is a controlled discharge, where you store the flow and then release it when there's enough stream to essentially do like a 5-to-1 dilution ratio, or I shouldn't say dilution, but a ratio there that would be favorable to EPA's and their permit requirements. So, so it's important to understand that, and I'll show you just kind of what we're looking at here. This is a plant in Fayetteville, just outside of Fayetteville, that picks up Fayetteville, areas of St. Martin and Lake Lorelei. And you can see they have a small mechanical plant, but then what you mainly see there is this large lagoon area, and that's to store flow to be released through the months of like November to May, or April. So when the streams are up. So that's the type of plants that you're kind of looking at for some of these subregional areas. So you're looking at a footprint wise, you need a space for a lagoon for controlled discharge. This is another example. It's in Highland County, Morristown area. They have a combination of land application as well as a lagoon for controlled discharge. So here in the drier months, they actually have a pivot and irrigate and discharge the effluent flow out onto agricultural land when they can't discharge to the stream. So that allows for some additional capacity. It's very favorable. And in these situations, we're not changing the landscape of the county. There's still, you're not coming in and just developing every piece of the land. You know, these are systems that are in rural communities in Brown County and Highland County. We went through and identified public wastewater treatment plants as well as the private, understanding that there is available capacity from a biological standpoint, but maybe not necessarily from a hydraulic standpoint with groundwater, surface water getting into the systems. So that would need to be tightened up as part of the project. This was just going through and looking at the different subregion areas, and if you know, the big thing with this is there is existing needs for some of these areas, but also that if you brought in development, you know, you can lower the cost of those systems, where maybe a developer would build the plants, and it could be sized such that it could bring in surrounding area. Now looking at a short-term 5-year action plan would be to keep our eyes on the centralized regional sewer approach, while we're also meeting the needs that are economical for specific areas that we highlight in the subregions. So, but it's important to go ahead and try to establish where these regional plants are going to go, and to establish the MPDS permitting that would be needed. You know, I would assume these things are only going to get harder to achieve as land is developed. So going ahead and understanding where these locations, these prime locations would be to establish some early on infrastructure that will help you in the future to be able to kind of meet the goal of regionalizing the entire area, the different areas. So, and then, you know, the goal of this is to become a working document that kind of gives the framework for how county economic development can respond to RFIs. Kind of gives a potential, you know, if they're when Beckjord and places along 125, and those folks come in and want to invest in the area, it kind of gives you an idea of what, okay, there's a subregion next to you, or maybe there's a subregion that's not identified in this that can take off, but we're going to model it from what's been done here. It's been shown in this report. There are 4 project areas that really come to the top. There's some sewer extensions in the New Richmond area that primarily low pressure sewer. They've already reached out to so far out, and you mentioned annexing, but that's something I think it's a bigger conversation when it comes to regionalizing sewer in the area. But there's a couple projects for New Richmond. There's one that has for Amelia area, and then there's one that's Concord Road. So, and I'll try to move through this briefly here. So a sewer extension, just coming off of their existing low pressure sewer, extended out Frank Willis Memorial Road. And this project, just because there's a lot of properties that have smaller lots and on-site systems and would benefit. Not to say they have failing systems currently, but there's the benefits there for them. There's one extended out to Grays Lane on the north side of New Richmond. There's areas around Amelia, smaller streets that could be picked up with a low pressure sewer system and discharged to existing gravity. Of course, more preliminary focus on this would need to be made, but you know, with what we're picking up there, it's assumed you'd be able to connect existing gravity sewer without the need of a treatment plant. This area here, there are a couple existing package plants in the area that serve mobile home parks, but there's areas down along Concord Road that would benefit greatly from having public sewer. And with this project here, without even any development happening, it appears that there's enough biological capacity at these 2 plants to take on this additional area. And that really just depends on, you know, the future usage of the mobile home parks. But there's definitely potential for a partnership there or further conversations to benefit a lot of folks in this area. We're pretty far from the Ohio River. Either building a new plant adjacent to the existing mobile home parks or trying to utilize their existing facilities and their permit. Definitely.
Excuse me just a
Mhm.
second. Lyle, isn't one of those where we had a sewer problem at one time, didn't we, at one of those mobile home parks?
The one right up at,
Where these two
No,
have-
it's
that
one
was
north.
up at
up in-
132 and 125.
Right.
Right,
Further-
okay.
further north.
Yeah.
This area that Justin was talking about was the area that actually the health department identified it as the worst.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Regional area. It's going to be very expensive to build, so we're trying to get creative. Got treatment, there's gonna be lift stations, there's a lot of homes, but then there's a lot of undeveloped land in that area as well, too, so.
Yeah, so just to summarize, it's a pretty large area. I mean, it's a very large area. It's a sewer, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. Hopefully that this kind of provides you the framework to be able to work towards someday changing, someday providing public sewer to folks and having that availability in hand right away for commercial, industrial to kind of come in. Obviously, we always need to think about the zoning and the townships and how they, which direction they want to head with that. So I think it's a kind of a bigger start of a bigger conversation of, what each township kind of wants the landscape to look like. And that paired with economic development of RFIs they might get, or are currently getting, how the different sites might develop. I know down 125 is like you alluded to, is very limiting.
Yep.
And so, development's kind of limited to things that don't require a lot of sewer. So these are developments that don't have a lot of jobs and have large Western facilities and things. They're more storage buildings, development, that kind of thing. So that doesn't require sewer necessarily. So it's going to give you more of a mixed use development if you can have public sewer there. For obvious, we all know that. So it's not saying anything you guys don't already know, but the area, the Concord Road area, just like what Lyle was saying, is a primary focus of if you were looking at existing on-site system potential for failure and trying to provide a plan for those folks. I know there's always talks with Beck George site and what can be done with that site. And then, of course, the 125 corridor. So, I mean, there is funding, but it's more for initial capital costs. So we do have to keep in mind that these are really large projects, and if you did get a grant, it would probably be for a small portion of it. So it would still be quite a bit of matching that would have to be made, even if you did get a grant, for instance, forgiveness. There's lower interest loans, but it needs to make sense for those folks that are connecting to this system.
But I mean, you refer to this as a really large project. I mean, this isn't nearly as big as like making the Panama Canal. I mean, this is just putting in some sewer. I mean, they make those great big excavators every day, and they can dig all this stuff in. Not that big a deal. It's timely and it's over a large geographic area, but it's not out of touch. I mean, if you go in the regional or sub-regional approach, I mean, that's basically how it was all put in. And if you plan with the end of it being a regional approach so that everything you put in a sub-region obviously can be cut right back to the regional aspect. I mean, yeah, it's going to be over time, but like I said, it's not nearly as big as the Panama Canal.
It's got a big- yeah,
That's a big project.
Yeah, if you look at the dollar.
That only
the dollar
took
amount-
5 years.
Right. That was a big project.
If you look at the dollar amounts, it's something we're gonna have to get creative to fund any of these projects. We're gonna have to have support from the public. If there's no health nuisance declared, in an area, why are we putting sewers in?
Mhm.
So we're gonna need public support in order to do some of these smaller projects. I think it would be good if we could partnership with some developers if they've got an area that they want to develop. And there's surrounding areas that need public sewer as well. There's opportunity for us to contribute. We've done that before. Make contributions
You bet.
to capital. Either make the treatment plant bigger, make the pipes bigger so that it can be expanded in the future. I know in Newtonsville, we collect capacity. Anytime someone connects to an existing sewer, I think it's just over $3,300 for a sewer connection for a single home. In Newtonsville, we're collecting those fees, but they're building all that infrastructure. So we took whatever we're collecting and we're contributing it back into the project
Right.
to help reduce the price. We can do something similar. If a developer wants to build in an unsewered area, we'll contribute whatever they're going to pay capacity fees for the whole development. We can contribute that because we'll collect it in the future.
Yeah.
We'll recoup that.
And one of the things to take a look at, I mean, in today's market, people have to have four things. They have to have sewer, they have to have water, they have to have gas, and they have to have internet. And that's just kind of, you take any one of those out of that four combination, and that makes not a difficult situation. It just makes the situation where, are you really going to invest in that particular area when you can invest in another area that already has all four of those? And I just think we've waited too long. We've waited many, many years to really attack this, all over the county, but it needs to be done. And especially with broadband coming up, we've seen now that, that's a big deal to people. They have to have access to that, and not having access to it impacts not only your ability to do business, but it even impacted this county and the ability for your kids to go to school. We got to have infrastructure. So, we got to plan for it, and we got to budget for it accordingly, and we got to follow that plan and make that happen. And Steve's comment is, right on. Is it going to be, it takes time. It does take time. It does.
Money.
It does. Everything takes money.
Now, I was just going to add that Justin touched on a few projects specifically, but the whole report, it goes through the whole study area with individual projects broken out. And something that we can refer back to if there's interest from the developer. Or if there's interest from a group of property owners. Kind of looked at some of the crossroads out in that part of the county.
Or if there's interest from commissioners.
If you've got an area, yeah, we can look at that. That we can at least refer back to the plan and say, okay, this is some budget numbers, this is how we would possibly route the sewer line. It can all be built. I will say construction standards changed from the 70s to current today. In Miami Township and in Union Township areas, and even in the 9 Mile area in Pierce Township, when those sewers were built, it was acceptable to put the sanitary sewer right next to the stream because it flows downhill, right?
Right.
It's easy. That stream widens, and then your sewer's in the middle of the stream. The EPA has now said that's not acceptable. So construction of sewers has become more difficult when you're looking at a lot like the topography that we've been doing. It's not insurmountable. It can't. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just going to be a little harder.
I mean, also too, if you jump right into the centralized sewer, you have to also size the infrastructure appropriately for what's flowing into it. So, if you build a plant that, okay, in the future, it's slated for so many EDUs coming right at us here, it might be 10 years down the road. But you have to phase that work, phase those plants. You almost have to have an initial plant size and then phases. Okay, now we've entered in where we have so much development that's going to happen in the next year. We got to go ahead and bring the next phase of the plants on. So you can oversize the infrastructure. You can have too large of a gravity sewer. You can have too large of a pump station. So there really has to be some fine tuning of, okay, what does it look like today? And what's it look like in 5 years? But even the gaps in between that, you don't want a large pump stations just sitting there with flow going septic and having a lot of problems waiting on developers to take off.
When
Getting the timing of that right is going to be challenging.
Yeah, when Lyle's currently doing projects today, I don't hear him come in too many times and say, well, we're going to go from 10 inch down to 8.
Yeah.
You know, even the existing infrastructure, it always goes up in size because, you know, we're there.
Yeah, but
But good report.
yeah, well, thank you. Hopefully it's helpful, you know.
You
and
bet it
continues
is.
to be a working document and, you know, I look forward to the dialogue back and forth with the stakeholders and what everybody's thoughts are on it. And so it's useful for everyone.
And I think you've gained some good ones today, you know, from this board. So
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
And you know, this was a timely presentation with the trustee from Tate Township just here last week. So did he get a copy of this, Lyle?
I don't know that you have a copy yet. After it's presented to the commissioner.
Yeah.
That I would meet with the
Okay.
trustees and go over the.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
you.
We will move on with our regular agenda. We are at item D, public participation. Is anyone here today from the public that would like to participate in the meeting? Seeing none, we will move on to item E, consent agenda. Board, you have had the consent agenda presented to you early for review. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, then I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. Any further? Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. We will move on to the non-consent agenda, which starts on page 4. Page 4, it's a recommendation that the Board of Clermont County Commissioners adopt resolution number 092-24 to approve payment to vendors in the total amount of $3,163,438.24 as outlined in the BCC approval invoice reports for checks dated July 24, 2024, BCC directed prepaid invoice reports, and the procurement card transaction report as presented by the county auditor on July 22nd, 24, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants pursuant to section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved in second. Roll call.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 11, Clermont County Engineer, Suki. Morning.
Morning, Suki.
Item 11 is a recommendation. This is to execute a memorandum of understanding between the county and Union Township relative to the installation and maintenance of some pedestrian crossing equipment located it'll be on Eastgate South, right there in front of Jungle Gyms. They currently have a sidewalk and they want to put, we call them RRFBs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. So it's kind of just notify the passing vehicles that someone is in the crosswalk. And
Good.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 11. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
It's been moved in second. Any further conversation? Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 12. Jess, morning.
Item number 12 is the recommendation to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, or in his absence, any other member of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute the proposal for service between the Board of Commissioners of Clermont County and Vertiv Corporation out of Columbus, Ohio, for the service and maintenance of the Liebert uninterruptible power supply equipment located at the Communications Center, effective July 26, 2024 through July 25th, 2025, at a rate not to exceed $12,892.06, in compliance with the terms and conditions in the proposal for service and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 12. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved in second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Rebecca.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 13. Morning, Desmond.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is item 13 is a recommendation to execute subrecipient agreements between the Board of Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, and the following political subdivisions or nonprofit organizations to administer the projects in concert with the Clermont County Community Development Block Grant Program for various fiscal years and in compliance with the terms and conditions of the agreements as outlined below, and contingent upon the receipt of the required purchase order. The first subrecipient agreement is with Interparish Ministry, Inc. on Icolts Road. This is for IPM Food Pantry Improvement, project number 2020-CV-14, in an amount of $50,000. Contract term is 7/1/2023 through 12/31/2024. Second agreement is with the Ohio Township Board of Trustees on Mount Pisgah Road. Project is the Ohio Township Mount Pisgah Playground Phase 2, project number CDBG-2023-06 for $12,000. Contract term is 10/1/2023 through 9/30/2025.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 13. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Been
I'll
moved.
I'll second.
Any comments? Roll call, Rebecca?
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Always good to be able to help out these kind of, businesses or nonprofit businesses, and especially a township also. Item number 14.
Item 14 is a recommendation to execute a contract for professional services between the Board of County Commissioners and AECom Technical Services Incorporated out of Columbus, Ohio for engineering design services for project number 6402-60243 for the South Afton 2 lift station project located in Williamsburg Township, as outlined in Exhibit A from the proposal dated April 29, 2024, for a total amount not to exceed $304,680, with said services to be completed within 365 consecutive calendar days upon issuance of a written notice to proceed from the Water Resources Department, exclusive of county review time and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order. So this will be for design of a new lift station to reside in proximity to the South Afton 1 lift station, which is on Afton Drive, that it serves the design within reach facility and will also serve the Purina dry plant. This lift station would be intended to serve a future Purina wet plant that they've expressed an interest in constructing. They had a kind of a fast schedule that we were under. They've since slowed that down, so our intent is to just proceed with design on this. The lift station, the South Afton 1 lift station, would not have the capacity to serve the wet plant. This lift station is expected to be designed for about 2.6 million gallons a day. And it's going to pump to the same location that the South Afton 1 lift station pumps to. And our intent would be, at least for the immediate future, both lift stations would continue to operate.
Okay. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 14. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Lau, would this lift station be directly to the east of the current lift station?
Yes.
I thought so.
Yeah, we've directed the consultant to work with staff at Nestle Purina and their designers to make sure it's coordinated with their design. So that's part.
And would both of those lift stations, would lift station number 1 go away in future thoughts?
Potentially, right. It's a brand new lift station. It's got capacity. It's actually got, if we add a third pump to it, we can double its capacity from 432,000 gallons a day to 864,000 gallons a day. This lift station, so we're kind of keeping that there the way it is. This new lift station, it's intended, would also be able to serve north of 32, some of that area that's east of Half Acre.
Mhm.
And so we want to reserve as much capacity there as we can, because it's hard to predict. We're talking industrial development. How much sewer capacity do they need?
And that was going to be
From the
my
hip.
question.
But
Would
there- Go ahead.
it, service further east then too?
Primarily further north. As
North.
we go
North.
east, it starts to get right into Village of Williamsburg.
Okay.
So
Right. But there may have to be some increase in sewer installation in the future. Is that still
Yeah.
a consideration?
my plan is that we would have an easement through the Purina site to 32, that we could install gravity sewer through that and then bore under 32 to get to that undeveloped property north of 32, east of Half Acre
Okay.
in the future, if there's interest to develop that area.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 15.
Item 15 is a recommendation to authorize Tom Eigel, County Administrator, to execute an electronically and e-sign an Ohio Public Works Commission project grant agreement for OPWC grant control number CJ06AB between Clermont County and the state of Ohio, acting through the Director of the Ohio Public Works Commission relative to the Branch Hill, Miamiville Road Water Main Replacement Phase 2 project in concert with the State Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 2025, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions of the agreement as outlined below. So this Phase 2 is from just inside the I-275 loop to Branch Hill Guinea Road along Branch Hill Miamiville Road. The grant amount is for $1 million.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Rebecca.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 16.
Item 16 is a recommendation to approve the request to advertise for bids for project number 6401-60227 for the Weaver Road Water Petition Part 2 project located in Stone Lake Township pursuant to the plans and specs, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on August 1st, 2024. Schedule a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on August 15th, 2024 at 1:00 p.m. with bids to be received until 2:00 p.m. local time on Thursday, August 22nd, 2024, here in the Office of the Board of County Commissioners. They will be publicly opened and read aloud, and the legal notice will also be posted on the county's website. So the engineer's estimate for this project is $174,415. It involves about 865 feet of new 8-inch water main to serve 5 properties. We've been working on this project for quite some time, trying to get the property owners in support. It also includes ARPA funding of just over $102,000.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 16. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Then moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 17.
Item 17 is a recommendation to acknowledge that David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, verified and signed plaintiff fact sheets Exhibits 2 and Exhibit 8 associated with the Aqueous Film Forming Foams, AFFF, products liability litigation in coordination with the county's legal representatives associated with PFAS substances contamination. So these are class action lawsuits that we've been working with our outside legal counsel on. These were required to be submitted on last Friday on July 19th, and Commissioner Painter signed those so that they could be submitted on time.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 17. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 18.
Item 18 is a recommendation to adopt a revised table of organization for the Water Resources Department to add one position of WRD design engineer that can be filled with either a design engineer 1, pay range D, or a design engineer 2, pay range E, as outlined above, and then Exhibit A, effective upon approval, and further authorize the update of the appropriate internet links and appendices accordingly. So our intent is to, we had a shared engineer with the building department for plan reviews, for subdivision plan reviews and commercial plan reviews. Our intent is to have that person now housed at the Water Resources Department, add this position to our table, and that's what they will do primarily be doing is the subdivision and commercial plan reviews. As time allows, we'll have them manage some capital improvement projects as well.
Yep.
Good.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 18. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lyle. Item number 19. Morning, Jason.
Morning.
Good.
Item number to Jason Fountain with the Prosecutor's Office. 19 is the recommendation to accept the material terms of a settlement agreement by and between Clermont County and Kroger and its related subsidiaries and entities with respect to the ongoing national opiate litigation, captioned as in Re National Prescription Opiate Litigation Case Number 17 MD 2804, and authorizing any member of the Board of County Commissioners to execute a participation agreement in similar fashion that the commissioners have seen in the past, and a settlement agreement noting Clermont County's acceptance of the prescribed terms.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 19. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any conversation or discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Very much.
Thank you. Item number 20. Morning.
Item number 20 is a recommendation to approve the solicitation and request for statement of qualifications for as-needed architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, and landscape professional design services in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 153.68, for design services aimed at creating, reviewing, and approving the appropriate documents for submittal for building code compliance as it relates to remodeling, construction of offices, buildings, structures, and other appurtenances, including space planning, HVAC, lighting, and landscaping, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice for 2 weeks in a newspaper of general circulation beginning July 31st, 2024, with statement of qualifications to be received no later than 2 p.m. local time, Thursday, August 15th, 2024, in the office of the Board of the County Commissioners, 101 East Main Street, 3rd floor, Batavia, Ohio, 45103, where they will be publicly open and read aloud. The notice is also posted on Clermont County's website at the following link.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 20. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. That concludes our non-consent agenda. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
No, sir.
All right, then we'll move to item H. I'm requesting an executive session pursuant to section 121.22 G1 and 121.22 G2 and 121.22 G3 of the Ohio Revised Code to consider the employment, discipline, dismissal, or compensation of one or more public employees, and to consider the sale of property at the competitive bidding if premature disclosure or information would get an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest. And 3, to confer with the prosecuting attorney concerning the disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Or do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Roll call.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes, we will move into executive session. We will return and conduct further business. Thank you. From an executive session, there were no decisions made and no actions taken. We will move on with our agenda. Drop back to G for a second. Are there any additions to the agenda?
We do. We have two. We have a personnel action, Water Resources Department, and then we have a settlement agreement to add to the agenda.
Board, I'd like to modify the agenda. Do I have a motion to add these two items to the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call.
Commissioner Bonnie?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Two items been added to the agenda. The first one we will take is Water Resources Department. Terry?
Terry Brandenburg from the Human Resources Department. I have a personal action for Water Resources Department. It's a probationary removal effective today, July 24th, 2024, for Mary Berta Cogashell. She is a operator one.
Okay. Board, you've heard the reading of the requested resolution for terminating the probation period of Mary Bertle Cottershell as presented by Terry. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Terry.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Rebecca.
It's
Sorry
like
about
who's
that.
on first today,
Right.
Paul? This is great.
Right. What?
Okay.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. And the next one up is
Who knows, right?
representative from our prosecutor's office, Brian Shrive. Glad you're here today.
I was wondering what you were going to call me.
I know, I was too.
What?
It was rated PG.
Mark, go. Claire, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, whatever.
I have a resolution, a motion, a recommendation to execute a settlement agreement with Talmadge and Amanda Lewis in Clermont County Common Pleas Court, case number 2024. I've got this. CVH 00374, and authorization of payment of settlement. On the recommendation of Brian C. Shrive, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, with the occurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize the Board of County Commissioners to execute the settlement agreement for the provision of full settlement and release of all claims associated with the matter of Talmadge and Amanda Lewis v. Popham et al. 2024 CVH 00374, for the Board of County Commissioners to authorize David Painter as President of the Board to execute the settlement agreement, and for the Board of County Commissioners to authorize payment of said settlement agreement pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth in the release and settlement agreement. I'll leave that there for you. No, this is involving a car accident involving one of our deputies and Mr. and Mrs. Lewis, ultimately settling claims for their personal injuries in the amount of $25,000, $20,000 for Mr. Lewis, $5,000 for Miss Lewis, and that would get a full release of all claims.
Board, you've heard the reading of the request for release of all claims as described by our prosecuting attorney, Brian Shrive. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation, discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thank you. You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
One time.
We need to bring Tom today.
Yeah. Thank you. Board, any other additions to the agenda?
Nothing further.
Okay, we will move to item I, which is staff and county elected official discussions. Any staff or elected officials discussions today?
Doesn't look like it. They're shaking their head.
They're shaking their head no. Any update on where we're at with the juvenile facility or juvenile court facility? Are we getting close?
Yes, we're getting very close.
Good. Tell us about these. We understand there is an issue there with access control, and understand that there are some boards that weren't working that they had to go back to the vendor and get, but the vendor doesn't make these boards. There's a obviously manufacturing company that makes them for them.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, so as you stated, they've been sent back. We're trying to get them repaired and then they will be shipped back to us. It's going to take a little bit of time and we're aware of the situation. The contractor's aware of it and we're hoping that we can expedite it quickly and try to get it repaired quickly and just hopefully get the juvenile courts up and going over in the new expansion. So it'll take a little bit of time, but we don't have an update exactly on when we're going to have them back. So we're just waiting on the contractor.
So we're occupying the facility?
We are. We have conditional occupancy until we haven't necessarily moved the courts over due to safety concerns. So we're holding on that aspect.
And the next one's up to move our
The what?
Board of Health. Are they going to move into that facility sometime soon?
I'm not sure about that one.
Would be probate.
Probate's going to come? Okay. Fantastic. Okay.
Thank
Good. Anything else we need to know about the county staff, elected officials discussion? We haven't heard from Lenny. Is there anything you want to update us on? I know you're new here. We're glad you're here, but we get it.
Tom
We get it.
That's all my fault.
I know.
always is.
Hearing none other, I will go to item number J, which is member comments. Board members, any comments about today's meetings? Fair? Have you been to the fair? Anybody's been to the fair? Well, tonight is one of the big judging opportunities at the fair for cattle. So be a great time to be over. Last night was Demolition Derby. Was a huge night at the fair, no question. So it seems to be going well. Attendance is up. It's obviously been spotty rain and some hot evenings and hot afternoons. So if you get a chance, by all means, get over there to the fair. I know there'll be professional entertainment coming up soon. That's on the schedule, and a lot of different booths to see, people to meet. It's a lot of fun. Go to the fair. Anything else on the member comments? Then I'd go to item K and ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All of those in favor? Oh, roll call, please.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Thank you for your attendance today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Hope you have a great week and go to the fair.